behalf of Utah Valley University and the Office for Global Engagement, we welcome you to the third annual Diplomatic Conference on International Trade Relations. My name is Baldomero Lago. I'm the Chief International Officer here at Utah Valley University, and I have the great honor to welcome you to this conference today. We recognize the presence of the Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Utah, Mr. Spencer Cox, the Regional Director of the Office of Foreign Missions for the United States Department of State, Madam Christine Hernandez, the President of the Utah Consular Corps, Mr. David Utrilla, the Director of the U.S. Commercial Services, Shelby Dyack, and our own Utah Valley University President, Dr. Astrid Tumenes. We would like to also recognize, seated on the stand, those that will be presenting and speaking to us, and those are Mr. Miles Hansen, is the President and CEO of the World Trade Center Utah, Dr. Saeed Moavini, he is the Dean of the College of Engineering and Technology, and Mr. Franz Kolb is the Director of Diplomacy and Protocol for the state of Utah, and Mrs. Vicki Bennett, she is the Director for Sustainability and Environment here in Salt Lake City. Today we're honored to have the presence of dignitaries and government representatives. I will introduce them by their nation in alphabetical order, and I would ask each representative to stand with their country's name and are seated. I would ask the audience to hold the applause until all the diplomats have been properly introduced. So representing the Commonwealth of Australia, the Honourable Deputy Consul General, Mrs. Odette Hampton. Representing Canada, the Honourable Consul General, Mr. Stefan Lessard, and also the Senior Trade Commissioner, Mrs. Catherine Burkel. Representing the Czech Republic, His Excellency, the Ambassador Hinek Kamenicek. Thank you. And also his lovely wife, Indira Gumarova. Thank you very much. Representing the Republic of Finland, the Honourable Trade Commissioner of Finland, Ms. Sutsa James. Representing Hungary, the Trade Commissioner and Investment Commissioner, Mr. Attila Duncan. Representing the Republic of India, the Honourable Deputy Consul General, Mr. Rajesh Naik. Representing Japan, the Consul General, Mrs. Midori Takeuchi, and also the Consul of Economic Political Division for Japan, Mr. Junyan Inouye. Representing the United Mexican States, His Excellency, the Minister of Economic Affairs, Mr. Mario Rodriguez Montero, and also the Honorable Consul General of Mexico, Mr. Jose Borjon. Representing the Netherlands, the Honorary Consul General, Mr. Gerber Kunst, and also the Senior Economic Policy Officer, Mrs. Scotty Terpak. Representing New Zealand, the Consul General, Mr. Maurice Williamson. Representing the Republic of Peru, the Honorable Consul General, Mr. Roland Denegri. Representing the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, the Honorable Deputy Consul General, Madame Colette Weston. And also we have the great honor to represent multiple different nations by the honorary consuls. And let me see if I can see some of the honorary consuls. Representing the Republic of Austria, Mr. Franz Kolb. Representing Canada, Mr. Paul Campbell. I believe I saw Paul, thank you. Representing the Republic, Mr. Jonathan Tichy. Jonathan, great. Representing Hungary, the honorary consul, Simon George. Thank you. I don't think we have Latvia with us. And representing New Zealand, Mr. Ian Mackay. And representing Peru, David Utrilla. Thank you. And we should have Sweden also, representing Sweden, Cecilia Hahn. And Switzerland, we should also have Mr. Daniel Oswald. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Thank you. I know what it takes for all of you dignitaries to leave your office, your post, for 1 day, 2 days, to come to Salt Lake City and to teach us, to interact with you, to be able to engage with you. And we do appreciate, on behalf of this academic institution as well as the state, I'm confident of so. We also welcome to this conference government, community, and business leaders and faculty and students. At this time, I want to express my gratitude for all of those who have promoted this initiative and this event. You will find these organizations on the cover on your printed program, all the organizations that have been promoting this event. The format for this conference is outlined in the program. After the plenary session, we will have 3 breakout sessions upstairs in rooms 206 and 213. Once the breakout sessions conclude at noon, we will return to the ground ballroom right here, where all the diplomats will be sitting in their respective tables, so anyone throughout the conference will be able to interact with them on a one-on-one basis. And now let me just say a few words to all of you. There's no question, ladies and gentlemen, that we live in a great state. Thanks to the cohesive efforts of its residents, the state is being ranked number 1 under many categories. Forbes magazine has ranked Utah 6 times in the past 7 years as the number 1 state to conduct business. On a fiscal year, we conduct exports and imports for the amount of $12 billion. Currently in the state of Utah, there are close to 4,000 companies that conduct international business, and over 400 of them are foreign companies here in the state of Utah, making a great impact in our economy. You cannot walk down the street in the great state of Utah without hearing someone speak a second language. Currently, the state of Utah conducts business and operations in over 130 languages. And thanks to the legislative, community, and educational commitment, today we're leading the nation in educating our future in bilingual education. Close to 50,000 students today benefit from the K-12 dual language immersion programs. Utah offers a great landscape for tourism that attracts over $8 billion industry. This is a great state in the crossroads of the West and offers global services, programs, and products. There's not a question that we live in a great global state. We recognize the great efforts that our governing and business leaders have made to bring and elevate the state of Utah to what we are now. At this academic institution, we acknowledge and support the state's initiative by creating events such as this one. UVU is a leading university in the state who embraces diversity, inclusion, and promotes cultural understanding and global awareness. We are committed to prepare our students to live in a local to global community in order to meet the workforce demands. Just last week, I had the great opportunity to meet with Mr. Scott Smith. Mr. Smith is a Rocky Mountain regional diplomat in residence in Denver. As he came to visit with us and some of the folks in the Utah Council of Citizens Diplomacy, he indicated that right now there's a high level of need from our students to actually meet the workforce demands, primarily in the sectors of IT, engineering, and medical services, and primarily to work for the Department of State. In addition to that, Utah is considered one of the number 1 states for CIA to hire individuals because of their cultural as well as the global understanding and awareness and their dual language abilities, as well as the FBI. State agencies are looking at this state to hire prospective employees for their operations. Today's plenary session will be as follows. First, we'll hear from Utah Valley University's President, Dr. Astrid Jimenez. And I'm going to let you know that Dr. Jimenez, after the Lieutenant Governor speaks, she will be excused. She has another commitment to attend. After her remarks, we will be honored to hear from our Lieutenant Governor, the greatest state of Utah, the Honorable Spencer Cox. And I want you to know that Mr. Cox really cares about our state. He really cares about this academic institution. This is our 3rd annual conference, and I can say that he has always been here supporting us. For the 3rd time, he's here, and I know how busy your agenda is currently, and I do appreciate you to be with us today. After the Lieutenant Governor's remark, I've asked David Utrilla, who represents the State Diplomatic Corps, to say a few remarks, and then Madame Christine Hernandez from the Department of State will also provide a few remarks. The conference will address 4 areas of economic strength, primarily in the areas of foreign investment, international trade, innovation technology, as well as sustainability. We'll proceed to this point, and then I will present the rest of the program. President Jimenez.
Good morning, and thank you very much, Baldomero. Thank you all for being here. I hope that you're feeling good. Welcome to Utah Valley University. It's a crisp, nearly winter morning, and it's better today than last week. Last week was really freezing. So just for you, our esteemed guests, we've ordered a little bit of better weather. It's sunny. I want to thank the Lieutenant Governor, Spencer Cox, for being with us this morning. It's symbolic of the partnership that this university has with the governor's office and our other governmental leaders. We are a public university. Therefore, the attention and time of our government leaders spent here is a big deal for us. And also, I know Val Hill is here from the Office of Economic Development. I want to thank my colleagues, especially Baldomero Lago, Dr. Lago, who played a big role in getting all of us here today. I also want to thank the professors, staff and students who are here, because at the end of the day, for me as a university president, it's wonderful to have this gathering, but what's so important to me is that our students get to participate in this and learn from all of you who are here, who are engaged in international trade and diplomacy. I have lived and worked in 5 different countries. Most recently, I've returned to Utah from 13 years in Hong Kong and Singapore. And I used to live in Russia also, and so I have a keen appreciation of what the world has to offer Utah and what Utah has to offer the world. I want to say that the topic today is extremely important, international trade. We learn in basic economics the importance of comparative advantage. And for Utah, it was interesting for me to learn some numbers last night. Trade impacts real people, and it involves real numbers. Utah ranks 16th in the nation for exports as a percentage of GDP. Businesses in Utah last year exported over $11.5 billion in goods and services. International trade, including exports and imports, supports 389,000 jobs in Utah, and for university, jobs are really, really important. We want our students to be gainfully employed when they graduate and have the capacity to live productive and dignified lives. So 1 in 5 jobs in Utah are impacted by international trade. I've also learned that 86% of trade here comes from small and medium enterprises with fewer than 500 employees. So for entrepreneurship, for being self-starters, for taking initiative, trade is extremely important. I also learned that we have ties, real ties with the outside world because of trade. Utah has customers in 196 countries and territories. They're buying Utah goods and services. The top buyers, kudos to you, you're represented here, United Kingdom. I don't know if we have anyone from Hong Kong and China. Maybe not, but I lived in Hong Kong for 3 years and loved it there. And Mexico, of course, and I know we have friends here from Mexico. Foreign-owned companies invest and build facilities and employ 47,800 workers in Utah. And I met somebody today from India. I've been to India a few times, and I'm delighted that country, that it's a powerhouse, over 1 billion people. I'm delighted that you are here in Utah. Finally, just a word about UVU. Again, thank you for being here. We are a teaching university, and we are a university with a dual mission. We have here a community college that deals with trades and career and technical education, and also a full university that offers 4-year degrees and master's degrees. I believe that the model of education we offer is very relevant for the 21st century, where we are not siloing knowledge, we're siloing it less by allowing this community college and university to coexist under one institution. And as the world changes, it is so important for our students, many of whom speak foreign languages because of service missions that they do for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It is important that they understand how the world is opening up to them, and it is because of people like you and what you do and what you bring to Utah that we will be able to educate our students better. So again, thank you all for being here. I hope that you have a wonderful day and that you leave with a good impression of Utah Valley University. We are friendly. Our mascot is the Wolverine, a gritty animal. There's a few left in Canada. But so enjoy your day at UVU, and again, thank you so much for working with us on international trade. May I call the Lieutenant Governor to please come up now?
Ladies and gentlemen, it's such an honor to be here with you again, as Dr. Lago mentioned, the third annual time that we've been able to spend together. I bring greetings from Governor Herbert. I tell people often that the job of the lieutenant governor is to disappoint people. They show up hoping to see the governor, and then I show up and inevitably disappoint them. But it is my honor to disappoint you today and to be able to spend just a few moments with you before I have to go and meet with the governor a little bit later this morning. I'm so grateful to Dr. Lago, to Franz Kolb, to their teams, everyone that works so hard to put this together, but most importantly to our foreign dignitaries who are here visiting with us today. It means the world that you would take time to come to our very small, rural, square western state in the middle of nowhere that is getting noticed in ways that it's never been noticed before. And it's to that I would like to speak. Over the past 6 years, it has been my honor to serve as lieutenant governor. Now, I knew a lot about what it would mean to have the opportunity to serve in this position. I had been in other elected office and knew mostly what the job entailed. What I didn't know, though, coming into this was how often I would get the opportunity to spend time with our foreign dignitaries as they visited our state, something that's happening more often than it ever has in the past. Now, there are many reasons for that. A lot of them have to do with Utah Valley University, and I'm grateful that you had an opportunity now to meet our incredible president, Tumenis. She is amazing. She brings a wealth of experience from all over the globe and represents the best of Utah and the best of the world here in Utah. But again, with her team and Dr. Lago, we often have invited many of you. This is a return trip for you and others who come to speak to our students, but spend time. They come as trade delegations. They want to learn more about what's happening here in Utah. I remember shortly after becoming lieutenant governor, I was told I would be meeting with the Crown Prince of Luxembourg. That was an interesting opportunity for me. I had no idea where Luxembourg was because I'm from a small town in the middle of. I actually did know where Luxembourg was, but I remember telling my kids that this was going to happen, and my young daughter was very excited because she assumed that he was like a prince from a Disney movie, and I had to tell her that was not the case, but he asked a very important question. He came here a little unexpectedly, and he had been asked by others to come and visit, and he came and he had a presentation where he learned about what was happening in Utah, and the incredible growth. He learned about our economy. We are the fastest growing economy, fastest private sector job growth of anywhere in the country. We are one of the statistics that has not been mentioned. We are the most diverse economy in the United States by a long ways. The growth that we are seeing is across the board in virtually every sector. If you drive not far from here up the road, you will notice new buildings going up almost every day. Our technology sector that we affectionately refer to as Silicon Slopes is growing very rapidly. But it's not just there. The finance sector is growing increasingly rapidly, maybe best represented by Goldman Sachs, who now has their second largest North American office in Salt Lake City, their fourth largest in the world, which is, again, very unexpected. Over 3,000 Goldman Sachs employees here in the state of Utah. And these are the types of things that the Crown Prince was learning about. And after we talked through all of them, oh, by the way, also the fastest growing state in the country since the last census 10 years ago, adding more people per capita than anywhere else in the state. We're really good at having babies here. That's it. But we are also in the top 10 for in-migration. People are coming. They want to live here. They want to ski here. They want to hike here. It's a beautiful place to live and raise a family, a beautiful place to retire. And he asked this question. He asked, why Utah? And I kind of questioned back, what do you mean, why Utah? And he said, well, I've lived on the East Coast. I've spent a lot of time on the West Coast. I understand New York City and Washington, D.C. I understand Los Angeles and Seattle. I don't understand how this state and these people, a place I had never really heard of, could be having this type of success. To what do you attribute that? And we had a long conversation. I could spend all day talking about why Utah, but I think there are a couple things that stand out. First and foremost are the people of the state of Utah. You've heard some of that. We are a very unique place. We do speak more second languages per capita than anywhere else in the United States. Now, a large part of that, of course, as the president mentioned, is the predominant church here. Many of our young people at ages 19 or 20 are going and having a foreign experience where they live in another country for 2 years. I had the opportunity to spend 2 years in Sinaloa, Mexico, and Baja California Sur, and it changed my life. It made me a different person. Even though I grew up on a farm in a very rural, in a small town where I'm raising my kids now, where everyone kind of looks the same, I had this 2-year experience where I met people who looked different than me, who talked different than me. I learned their language, I learned their culture, I learned to love them as much or more than I loved my own people, and that made me a different person. I have a son who just returned from 2 years in Mozambique. He loves the people of Africa. I speak Spanish, he speaks Portuguese. My second son just last week landed in French Polynesia. He will be spending 2 years. He's on a tiny island called Ta'aha with 3 other people, missionaries like him, only 5,000 people on that island. He's speaking French and Tahitian, learning both languages, again, learning that culture. That changes people. But it's not just those missionaries that have had those experiences. We have welcomed people from all over the world for decades, for centuries now. People coming here looking for respite, looking for peace. We are a state that was formed by religious refugees. My own great-great-great-grandparents had their homes burned to the ground and were forced out and came here looking for solace, looking for a place to practice their religion. Just a week ago, this was in the news this week, the governor and I sent a letter to the President of the United States begging him to allow more refugees to come to the state of Utah because it's a place where we love the diversity that comes. We want to help them find a better life. We want to welcome them and let them know that there is greatness here and that they can participate in the American dream, something that unfortunately is dying in other places, but Harvard University will tell you that Utah is where the American dream is alive and well. We lead the nation in upward mobility. It doesn't matter where you were born or into what station you were born. In Utah, you can be born in the utmost poverty and make your way up into the upper classes, as it were. The American dream is alive and well because of the people that are here. One last thing I'll mention that we're so very proud of, and that is the dual language immersion programs that we're teaching here in the state of Utah. Over 50,000 of our students, starting in first grade, are learning, getting half-day instruction in a second language. That is incredible. Again, more students here per capita than anywhere else in the country are learning those second languages. I have 2 nieces. They're almost fluent in Chinese right now, and they're in 6th grade, which is incredible. Spanish, French. Again, those languages that they have an opportunity to learn, because we know the future of our state depends on our global partners and our global friends. When the governor became governor in 2009, he gave a speech. And he said, I see the day where Utah can become a global business destination and lead the United States as the #1 economy. Now, those are the types of things that politicians say all the time, because that's what politicians do. The difference is that this has actually come to pass. It's happened. And it's happened because of some of the people you'll hear from today, the great people here who are dedicated to this, and the partnerships that we have with each of you that are so critical to us. We want to be better partners. There is a lot of uncertainty, we understand, in the global marketplace right now. But know that Utah is your friend, that Utah is open for business, that we want to work together, that we want to improve those relationships, and we look forward to a bright future of incredible partnerships together. Again, thank you for joining us. Good luck today, and God bless all of you. Thank you.
President Tumines, Lieutenant Governor Cox, thank you so much for your remarks. And I also want to thank the Utah Valley University for hosting this important diplomatic conference, and especially to Dr. Baldomero Lago for being the organizer. Also, special thanks to all of these diplomats and trade representatives representing 13 different nations that are here with us this morning, as well as the representatives from the United States federal government too, who are here, and state representatives in trade who are here with us too. I want to talk to you a little bit about the Utah Consular Corps, which is the organization that I am the current president of. We are composed of 27 honorary consuls and also one consul career general that is from Mexico that is here with us. Our mission as a consular corps is to connect the state of Utah with the 27 nations that we represent. These consuls, they have been appointed by the head of the states that they represent, and they have been accredited by the U.S. Department of State. And again, the mission is to connect the state of Utah with the nations that we represent. And we can do this in different ways. One way is by helping businesses that want to enter or expand in the countries that we represent. And we will be able to help you with everything that you may need and give you the best connections that you may need and even find the right partners. So please come to us. We can be a good resource for you. The second way that we can help in this mission, connecting you with the countries that we represent, is with academically, meaning that if you are a teacher or you're even a student and you are interested in us coming to your class to speak about a country that you guys are focusing on or are learning about, we can do that too. And the most important thing is that there is no cost to you for this type of help that we can provide you. This is an organization that can be a real benefit to you as long as you can use it. You can just go to our website or just Google Utah Consular Corp, and you can find all of our information, the list of all of the consuls that we have, honorary consuls and consuls that we have there, and also a bunch of resources that you can find if you are interested in international relations and international trade. Once again, thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you for coming to this and supporting international trade.
Buenos días. Yo Regel Kivanok. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. I'm Christina Hernandez. I'm the Regional Director for the Office of Foreign Missions for the Department of State. My office is located in Los Angeles, California, and I'm so honored to be here with you today. This is my second conference at UVU. Thank you very much for the invitation, Baldomero. This always is a great event, and I'm proud to be a part of it. Some of you know this, but those of you don't, I'm a proud Utah native. I was born just north of here in Ogden, Utah. And I tell you, this state is blessed with quality higher education. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend this fine university, but I did graduate from Weber State and also Utah State. Go Aggies. I've been a Foreign Service officer for about 15 years. Prior to that, I worked with the Department of Defense, so I'm kind of a government person. In those 15 years and 10 years in DOD, I did serve in Germany, Hungary, Mexico twice, Mexico City and Merida, Washington, D.C., that was the hardship tour. And now I'm in Los Angeles, which is wonderful. I'm one of 6 regional directors in the Office of Foreign Missions. It's kind of weird to be a Foreign Service officer and actually be stationed outside of Washington if you're home. So what we do is we help service the diplomatic corps in our region. Los Angeles covers Arizona, Nevada, Utah, obviously, and Southern California. We service, in my office, over 100 different countries. My sister regional offices include San Francisco, Chicago, Houston, Miami, and New York. And of course, our headquarters helps all the embassy folks out of Washington and gives us guidance. Altogether, we service about 100,000 diplomats on some sort of visa or another. They're either here on a bilateral mission, or they're with the UN, or go on and on and on. So of those, in addition to basic services that we provide, which is driver services, tax exemption, We also liaise with the local officials to help prepare for emergency management. In fact, 2 weeks ago, we held an earthquake preparedness program with Los Angeles, which really kind of was the wrong topic since we've been suffering from fires the last couple of weeks, as you know. So from fire to ice here in Utah, thank you for turning up the heat for my arrival. I heard last week you had snow, so this is really great. Our work is guided by the Vienna Convention, a Foreign Missions Act, and also bilateral agreements that we have with some countries. In a nutshell, our policy is based on reciprocity to help ensure that when our diplomats are serving abroad, that they get the best treatment that we can, so we try to do the same for those diplomats serving here. Sometimes telling the Department of State's story is a little challenging. We don't have big infrastructures like some of our brothers do in the Defense Department. No ships to show, no airplanes to fly, which is pretty cool to watch the F-35s here. No big bases that employ thousands and thousands of people across the country. But as you know, and everybody in this room knows, that that diplomacy is soft or smart power, which yields results that may not be seen in the short term. But I'm going to just try to highlight a few of those items here. Some of the previous speakers have touched on them, but I want to kind of highlight how Utah partners with the Department of State and how we work together to bring benefits here. Some of these numbers are a little outdated. I tell you, I'm not an economist, but we try to do the best we can. So in 2017, Utah-based companies received approval to export $400 million worth of defense articles and services abroad. This is a huge business for Utah. As you know, we're big in aerospace here. Utah hosted last year 4,500 foreign physicians, teachers, camp counselors, au pairs, and others as part of a work-study-based exchange program, or as we affectionately call it, the J1 program. In 2018, goods exported from Utah totaled $14.3 billion. These exports approximated about, and we heard this a little bit earlier, 50,000 Utah jobs, and foreign direct investment support an additional 47,000. Now, Utah is a machine of its own, but there is some requirement with international treaties, trade agreements, and that's kind of where the State Department layer comes in to help support this growth here in the state. The department advocates for conservation of pollinators, which contribute almost $300 million to the economy of the state of Utah. I had to research this a little bit. I wasn't sure what that meant. And basically, it's for the alfalfa production here, which is vital for cattle and beef and dairy industry. Plus millions more for other agricultural products such as cherries and peaches. I don't know if any of you have been north of Ogden. There's the Fruitway up to Willard. If you don't, do it soon. In the summer, it's wonderful. So those type of products we also help support. In education, I think Baldomero mentioned our diplomat in residence that's in Denver that covers Utah. And it's a career foreign service officer like myself, and they provide guidance, advice to students, professionals in the community about department careers, all kinds of careers, not just foreign service, but civil service and specialty programs that we have, internships. Please look us up if you're interested. We have lots of internship students, please. Fulbright scholars. Last year, 5 students and teachers from Utah were awarded Fulbright scholarships to study abroad, and another 10 students from abroad studied here on those same programs. 27 students from Utah received Benjamin A. Gilman International Scholarships awarded to students of limited financial means. More than 8,000 international higher education students studied here in Utah, over 8,000 through our universities. And then nearly 700 foreign exchange visitors visited Utah, and 130 Utah residents traveled abroad on our people-to-people ties program that we do. Utah's very strong on that. Snow College and a technical college in Columbia called Sena also developed an exchange program where Snow would teach English immersion classes to the Colombian counterparts, while Colombian students would then teach Snow students about agribusiness and construction management. Interesting, you wouldn't think that of Snow that's clear out in Nephi and turkey farms all around it, but there's a lot of innovation going on. Partnerships, this has been mentioned. I want to emphasize how important this is to the department as well. Utah is a shining example of refugee resettlement. It is a stellar program that other states look for. Get questions all the time, how does this work? Once somebody's approved for refugee status, this is a natural home for them. There's good community here to absorb those folks into the economy and into the culture. Hospitality. Utah is great at this. Nearly 500 residents hosted or supported roughly 500 International Visitor Leadership Program volunteers, and that's over 8,000 hours of volunteering their own personal time to help others around the world understand what Utah's about and explore their exchange opportunities here. I could go on and on here. Last thing, I know that Utahns love to travel. So the Department of State tries to support that. We have nearly 60 facilities across the state to help accept your passport applications if it's your first time. And last year alone, we issued 185,000 passports to Utah residents. So that's a big turn. It's only every 10 years you need one. So again, we've got new travelers in Utah. Again, I want to just close by saying how proud I am to be here, how proud I am to be from Utah, and how important diplomacy is, no matter what the politics are of the day. It's all about people-to-people exchanges. It's the relationship you build one-on-one with people. And thank you to Utah for being that example.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Shelby Dyack. I am the acting director of the U.S. Commercial Service here in Utah. It's very appropriate that I follow Ms. Hernandez, actually, and I'll get into that here in a second. But before I begin, I just want to thank Utah Valley University and the Office of Global Engagement, specifically Baldemar Lago, for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here to speak with everybody, and then also to be in the presence with so many incredible diplomats all on the same day, which is a very awesome and unique experience for everyone in this room. So first of all, a lot of you are here because you have an interest in international business. Amazing. The world is open to opportunity and to possibility, and it's an incredible journey to be on as a business, as a student, and as an individual. My job here today is to talk to you a little bit about international business opportunities abroad and how to take advantage of them. I am with the U.S. Commercial Service. If we're going to peel back the onion a little bit, the U.S. Commercial Service is part of the International Trade Administration under the U.S. Department of Commerce. It's a government entity, a federal government entity, so it's not going to have a really easy title. I'm sure if anybody's worked with federal entities before, it kind of gets a little deep sometimes. The U.S. Commercial Service is the export promotion arm of the U.S. Department of Commerce. So our one and only goal is to help U.S. companies grow and expand internationally, whether that be through finding a partner, doing due diligence, or vetting a potential partner, commercial advocacy, or really any kind of question that a company may come across. So as you're working through today and hearing some from our speakers and our dignitaries and diplomats that are here today, I'm sure it's going to spark some business interest, I hope, and that's when I want to hear from you. So just as a little bit of a background about what we do. So we are, as I mentioned, the export promotion arm of the U.S. Department of Commerce. So what does that mean exactly, and how do we do it? I am the office here in Salt Lake City. We have over 100 offices scattered throughout the United States. So if you are here visiting today and Salt Lake City or Utah is not your home, maybe it will be eventually because you'll love it so much and not want to leave. But if you do go back to your home state and want to engage a commercial service office, we can put you in touch with them. So in addition to our 100 offices scattered throughout the United States in major cities, we also have offices in over 80 countries in U.S. embassies and consulates. So some of our countries in which we have an office, we have multiple offices. China, for example, Brazil, India, where there's multiple market opportunities in one country. We want to make sure that we can capture that opportunity in every part of each country where we have an office. So our offices internationally, they are located at U.S. embassies and consulates. They're run by an American officer, so very similar to our State Department brethren. We have a team or class of commercial officers that trains in Washington, D.C., and they rotate out through assignments throughout the globe. Working for our commercial officer in each market is what we call a team of locally engaged staff. We call them LESs. I'm going to try to spare you the acronyms because as a government employee, I tend to use a lot of them. So LESs, I'm going to move forward saying just as an abbreviation to keep it a little easier. So our LESs, our locally engaged staff, are foreign nationals from that country working for the U.S. government. They are our boots on the ground. They are really our heart and soul of our organization. They are absolutely dedicated to helping U.S. business grow and succeed internationally. We do that through several different channels, as I mentioned. One of our most popular is our business-to-business matchmaking opportunities, where we'll work specifically and cater our services to a U.S. company and help them find a business partner, whether that be a business partner as a distributor, a joint venture partner, really whatever it is that you're looking for to grow and expand business internationally. And our specialists on the ground are really incredible at doing that. They specialize in industry sectors, and they work with their local community and their local associations, and they really do know their local client base and are an incredible asset for U.S. companies. In addition to that, I get a lot of requests for background checks. Unfortunately, companies engage with companies a little too early without knowing too much about them, or not knowing what their history is, or whether or not they have good business practices in country. And we want to help alleviate that for you. We want to take some of the worry and the concern out of that. So our offices worldwide also do business checks or background checks on folks. In addition to a whole host of market research that we have available that's free on our website about doing business and top industry sectors and cultural issues or questions that you might have. We also do a lot of commercial advocacy. And unfortunately, I hear from a lot of companies that tell us they wish they knew about our commercial advocacy services after the fact. We help companies all the time with shipments stuck in foreign customs offices, or whether it be an incorrect certificate or a wrong certificate or a photocopy of a certificate or a wrong classification or certification. We can work with the U.S. embassies to help you with that as well. Utah, as you've heard from our speakers this morning, is an absolutely incredible state. We are so fortunate to have such a strong trade ecosystem where everybody works incredibly close together, because what we want ultimately is for our Utah businesses to succeed internationally. You'll hear in a minute from Franz Kolb of the Governor's Office of Economic Development, as well as Miles Hansen from the World Trade Center Utah. Both of them are incredible partners to my office, and we really work with Utah companies to make sure that you grow and you reach your goals and opportunities internationally. And if you don't have international business on your immediate horizon, we would certainly encourage you to do so, and all three of us would be happy to speak with you at any point today. With that said, I will turn it over to, I believe, Franz Kolb. So thank you all for your time today. Again, it's a pleasure to be here, and I hope I get to speak with many of you.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Franz Kolb. I'm the Director for International Trade and Diplomacy in the state of Utah. And I'm honored to be here, Your Excellencies. And I would like to, before I begin my remarks, recognize a few people. I'd like to recognize Dr. Rusty Butler, who is the retired honorary consul for the Russian Federation and has also been a key leader at Utah Valley University. Thank you very much for your service. I also would like to recognize Mr. Terry Grant, who is also with KeyBank and who has been a leader in promoting international trade here in the state of Utah. And I would be amiss if I wouldn't recognize Ms. Megan Stedler, who is also from the state of Utah Governor's Office of Energy Development, if you could also stand. And I have learned a long time ago, I guess it was in the Austrian military, but they always said you should always salute your superiors and always talk to them with respect. And my superior is here today, our Minister of the Economy, Mr. Val Hale. And not only will he be waving, I'm asking him in a few minutes to come up here and also say a few words, if that would be okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have had the opportunity, I'm originally from Salzburg, Austria. I've had the opportunity to live in this state for over 40 years. I remember when I took the first time, when I came into the Salt Lake Valley and I saw it, from an air-conditioned car, it was a Chevy 350, looking down into the Salt Lake Valley. I said to my in-laws, this is the place, move on. So that's kind of an internal joke. But what was really interesting is, in all seriousness, when I came here and took this freeway exit in 1978 for the first time, there was a little community college here. And from here down to Brigham Young University, there was just a little mall, and that was basically it. Today, this institution has 40,000 students. I mean, the first university west of the Mississippi River was created here in the state of Utah. There is a hunger for education. A couple of years ago, I was in London, and I received, Utah received an award where for the #1 economy in the United States from the Kalman Institute. And I still remember we asked, so why is it that we get this #1 award among many factors? That the #1 reason was because we have internationalized Utah's economy. And I think that is significant. There's this little state in the Rocky Mountain population in the Rocky Mountains that has internationalized this economy, and we continue to do so. What I'd like to do, I do have a few slides, and I'd like to just, one of the reasons we have internationalized, we have made a commitment, if this works, okay, okay, this was, yeah, we have made a commitment, as the Lieutenant Governor mentioned, to our young people, to the next generation. This is a people of vision and legacy. We speak about 130 languages during the daily activities of business. And I have, in my career, as you will see, hosted many dignitaries and ambassadors and consuls general. And we go into these schools, into elementary schools, and they are just blown away that there's a people here that teaches these languages on a very young level. And I still remember we had a Chinese delegation here, one of the Chinese delegations, and they were investors, and I still remember showing them a shopping center, and there was a lady coming with a stroller and 3 children, blonde children, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. And the mother asked me, so where are these people from? I said, from China. And so she said to her 7-year-old son, come on over here, go speak with them. And so there was this blonde, blue-eyed Utahn speaking to these Chinese, and they were just blown away. So it's really exciting. There's a true commitment to international trade, and languages are really important for us. So we are very globally minded. So what do? Our office, the Governor's Office of Economic Development, we are focusing on diplomacy and international relationship. In this slide, you see the Honorary Consul of Indonesia, who was just here a couple of weeks ago, and the governor and lieutenant governor always asks the visiting dignitaries, are you committed to appoint an honorary consul in the state of Utah? The reason this is important for us is so that we have somebody on a diplomatic and formal level that we can work with. And we do have in the Consular Corps of the state of Utah, we do have a full-time consul from the Republic of Mexico, so we're very grateful, and mostly honorary consuls. So we have over 100 diplomatic visitors and visits a year. We interface with the governor directly. We from over 75 countries. Now, these are just diplomats, and we are doing the protocol aspect. And every time I walk into one of those rooms, I check and see if the flags are correct. You know, let's see if they are correct. The American flag, yes, the Utah flag, and in the meantime, they should be from the left side to the right side alphabetically. Let's see if we can figure that out. So. But it's very important because when it comes to diplomacy, diplomacy is the art and practice of conducting negotiations between representatives of states. It usually refers to the conduct of international relations through the intercession of professional diplomats with regard to a full range of topical issues. Diplomacy entails the entails influencing the decisions and conduct of foreign governments and officials through dialogue, negotiation, and nonviolent means. Well, we have been very nonviolent in Utah in the last 150 and so years. So it's very important. We want to make sure that we are supporting the executive branch. We are the executive branch. Mr. Chuck Gates, I believe, I've seen him walk in. He is here. He is a liaison with us for the legislative branch of the state of Utah, and we interface with Chuck and making sure if we have delegations that come from parliaments and so on and so forth, that they have an opportunity to meet with our representatives and with our senators. So if you could just stand, Chuck, we appreciate it. Thank you for your service. We're very grateful. So then the other thing that we are, we work with, we have partners. One of the partners you will hear in a minute, the World Trade Center Utah, where we go and we support trade missions, and especially the diplomatic aspect of these trade missions. And there's one being considered at this point, and I've talked to our friends here from Australia and New Zealand. So some of these things will be finalized in the next couple of months. And so international trade show support also. We have been mentoring our colleagues overseas when it comes to some of these important tasks. Very quickly, we have, so again, when it comes to protocol, we are the ones that work with attorneys when it comes to international memoranda of understandings, when it comes to correspondence and follow-up, which is very important. And then we also do protocol training. It's just amazing to me when you talk about diplomacy, or protocol. It's one of those skills. If it doesn't happen, if something goes wrong, everybody notices it. And otherwise people just take it for granted. And thank you, colleagues, that you're also going like this. Yes, because that's exactly what it is. And when we go on a trade mission and we meet with the president of a country, and we want to thank each one of you here. We just had the opportunity to be in Japan, and thank you, Consul General Takeuchi, to your government and the kind reception that we received over there. And we always take companies along that will do business, because that's what we are interested. For us, diplomacy is a tool for business. Now, here you see a picture with a governor-led trade mission. This was a trade mission to Europe, and this specific slide was taken at the Paris Air Show, where we had Utah companies, and we are again very grateful here for the World Trade Center. This was in the booth that they organized over there. But we do, to give you an example, to explain to you, when the governor is at the Paris Air Show, all of the CEOs of the large airplane companies are at this air show. Even from America, it is much more efficient to go to this destination and meet with all of them at one place than it is to fly around in America and do this and talk to them. So very quickly, we facilitate, as I mentioned, these agreements, and we also have what's called monthly international coordination meeting, calendaring coordination meeting, where we get around the table and we coordinate these international events. And I'm very grateful for Dr. Lago, who always represents Utah Valley University and at these meetings as well. So with this in mind, I wanted to make sure that I will give my colleague and boss, the Minister of the Economy of the state of Utah, a minute or two if he could say a few words to us. Let's welcome him.
Thanks, Franz. I'll be very brief. You can see we have a great cadre of internationalists here in Utah, which is one of the reasons we have done so well in this area. I want to congratulate Baldomero and the UVU team for putting on this conference. It's great to have this many people. And finally, I would like to clarify a mystery for you. When I was here at Utah Valley University, I was a vice president for 8 years, and one of the things I did was chair the committee that came up with the new logo for Utah Valley University. And I had them put these logos in here on the walls. Now, you see that the U, everybody always wants to know, why does the U on the left have the little tick at the top? And even students at Utah Valley University oftentimes don't know the answer to that. Look inside the U, you see the state of Utah. Okay, some people see it, some people don't. Now you will never look at that U and not see the state of Utah inside. Okay, so I just clarified a mystery. You're welcome. But again, congratulations. Thanks to everyone for coming from all over the world and participating here. Utah really does care about the world. We do care about doing business with the world. And I think you'll find us to be the most business-friendly state in America and also the most international-friendly state in America. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Val. Now we will all walk away and know that we learned something new today. Every time I've wondered, I've had that question, and I didn't know, and I never saw the state of Utah, but now I see it. So thank you very much for that, Val. And thank you, Franz, for that overview. You know, Franz said that Val is the Minister of Economy for the state of Utah. If Utah were a country, Franz would be its Secretary of State. And I know that Franz knows many of you here, if not everybody. Franz is a walking Rolodex, not only for the state of Utah, but for the entire world. And his leadership in leading this Team Utah effort on our international engagement is so important, and you see that with how familiar he is with both what's happening across the state, but also all the various members of this Team Utah that work so hard and work so closely together to help Utah engage with the rest of the world. I came back to Utah a year ago. I grew up in Utah, but I spent many years working for the State Department, serving as a diplomat in different countries, mostly in the former Soviet Union and the Middle East, as well as that hardship tour, too, in Washington, D.C., that we heard about earlier. And it's been so fun to be back in Utah over the past year to see just how international Utah is. What makes Utah different than every state around us, what is really our comparative advantage, is how internationally minded we are. And this conference, now in its third year, is a great example of that. And the fact that so many of you would travel from LA or San Francisco or Washington, D.C. or Denver here to be with us today really underscores the importance of this international engagement, both for the state of Utah, but for our international partners. So thank you for being with us today. As I thought about what I wanted to underscore here in just a few minutes, being the sixth or seventh speaker in a lineup of 9, so I will be brief, I promise. I thought about the power of partnership. And I thought for a minute, why do we care about international trade? Why do we care about convening groups like we have here today to find ways to build and expand relationships? Why is that important now, and is that going to be more important or less important in the years and decades to come? And as I've been back here in Utah, missing just a little bit the world of national security and foreign policy, I've thought a lot about the state of the world. And as I look out over the next years and decades, I see a world of increasing tension between countries and also increasing tension and gridlock inside of countries. And I could talk for a long time about nationalism, this increasing tension between countries, and tribalism, this increasing tension within countries. And it's no secret that if you turn on any of the cable news channels here in the United States and look at what's happening in Washington, D.C., you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And that's true not just in the United States, but it's true in many countries around the world. And what that means is a couple things. One, your job as diplomats is going to become both more important and more difficult in the years to come as you try to manage relationships and manage the affairs of countries between governments, government-to-government relationships. That's going to become more hard and more important, and so I applaud you and commend you for your continued service to your countries, but also to the global community that is so important for all of us, no matter where we live in the world. The second thing that I think, or lesson that I draw from viewing this trend line going out across the years and the decades, is that there will be a premium placed on the importance of people-to-people relationships. It's interesting to think about this gridlock that's happening between countries, while at the same time we have all these driving forces of globalization. Now it's so much easier to build and expand these people-to-people relationships. And I firmly believe that as national capitals, including Washington, become less effective at doing their jobs, we'll see states and subnational governments and companies and institutions and organizations and civil society leading out in ways that we've never seen before. Which means it's important that we find ways to build these people-to-people relationships, and that's true in the arts and sports and in culture and education, and particularly true in trade and investment. And with these relationships come the ability to find common sense solutions to the challenges that exist between peoples. And so the work that we're doing here today by talking about how do we build on and strengthen Utah's diplomacy with all of you, how do we strengthen our trade and investment relationships, it's more important than just business or trade or investment, but it really is about building partnerships, building these people-to-people ties that will become more important as the years go on. And as I think about trade and investment, of course, buying and selling from different companies across borders, that's important. It creates jobs in both countries. There's increased utility, if you will, for both countries. Both companies involved in that transaction benefit, and so that's important. Trade is very, very important. But if you think about investment and foreign investment, that really is at the heart of partnership, right? That's where you get two entities, two companies in two different global markets who decide that they want to have skin in the game with each other. They're going to formalize a partnership in which capital is exchanged in one way or the other, and now you have these partners working together for the success of the endeavor, whatever that may be, whatever industry that may be. And so as a state, we've been thinking very deeply about foreign investment and about this partnership. And it's not about capital. If you talk to any private equity or venture capital firm right now, if you talk to any company who's looking to raise, a Series A or a Series B round of funding, they'll tell you that capital markets are awash. We're at likely the tail end of the longest economic expansion ever. There's plenty of capital to go around. And so as a state, as we work with our companies here in Utah, and as we work with potential partners in other countries, we're quick to admit that it's not necessarily about finding capital, but it's about building partnerships. And so I'd offer to you just a quick framework to think about as you are working with your companies in your countries or your investment funds on how they could be thinking about potential investment opportunities. And then I'd just like to close by, when I close, I'll underscore the fact that we are open and eager for that business here in Utah. So as you think about foreign investment, oftentimes we think first about corporate relocations. If you want to have a company from one country come and build a factory or operations in another country or another state. And that's very, very important. That brings hard capital to a country or to a state. It creates jobs in that location. It helps that foreign country company grow and expand wherever the location is that they're working with. And that's an area where the state of Utah has done very well and will continue to do very well. But I think it's important that we broaden out what we're thinking about when we talk about foreign investment. And it includes, I think you can break it down into foreign investment in one of four buckets. One, private equity and venture capital. When you think about innovation, and we're about to hear a little bit more about innovation, venture capital is the fuel that drives the commercialization process for new technologies, that helps make those new technologies accessible to consumers and customers all around the world. And so you have a very close tie between increasing amount of innovation in a country or here in a state with the amount of venture capital and private equity, early stage private equity that's available. So you have private equity, venture capital, very much tied to the development of new technologies and new innovations in a tech ecosystem. You also have mergers and acquisitions. And if you think about it, nobody likes to have necessarily their companies come and bought up by another larger company somewhere else in the world if they're just going to pick up and take everything out to another country. That would be a loss for Utah. It would be a loss for any of your countries. But here in Utah, just one example, we have Samsung, a global leader in electronics, acquiring a small Utah technology company in rural Utah, a part of the state where we want to see more jobs created. And now for the past 2 years, we see Samsung, this global leader, with skin in the game in a rural community, making investments in that rural community, creating new jobs, creating new opportunities for this technology developed in a rural community to be applied all around the world. And that's a very powerful partnership, and it's something as a state we're working very hard to facilitate and increase the amount of mergers and acquisitions happening both here in Utah, but also Utah companies making acquisitions in other countries as well. And I could list off several examples. The third bucket would be the corporate relocation, of which I already spoke, and the fourth would be large infrastructure projects. Here in the state, we're thinking through how do we capture the power and efficiency of the private sector and apply that to help meet some of the very significant infrastructure needs that we have here in the state, whether it's rails or roads or pipelines, access up into our mountains with trains or gondolas to get up to our ski resorts. And so we are putting together a strategy across all of these different types of foreign investment to figure out how do we find the right investment opportunities here in the state and document that. And then how do we calibrate our international engagement such so that we can help the Utah entities find the right partners in other markets, depending on what type of investment it is. And one quick example of how we're doing that, Franz mentioned that we took a trip with the governor and a delegation of Utah businesses, a delegation of about 45 to Japan just in September. So a little more than a month ago. Consul General Takeuchi was very, very instrumental in helping us build out that program. And as we went through our various meetings, we had an eye towards facilitating more partnerships, more international investment here with the state of Utah. We met with SoftBank, a senior executive there. SoftBank is a global investment. They do many things, one of which is a global technology investment fund. Over the past few years, they have invested just about $50 billion in U.S. technology. So as we build out the program with foreign investment in mind, we thought we have to get with SoftBank. And so we were very fortunate to have a lunch with a senior SoftBank executive. Within 24 hours of that lunch, after we told the Utah story that you've heard so much about today, he had put us in contact with the head of the Silicon Valley office who reached out to do a meeting on Skype. He will be coming here to Utah in the coming weeks, and we will work very hard to build out a program to get him with 20 or so Utah companies that fit the type of investments and partnerships that SoftBank is looking for. We just hosted a week and a half ago a very large Japanese industrial and aerospace company, a company that you all would recognize the name of, as they look at opportunities to expand their investments here in the United States, and including their operations. And so they're looking at establishing a manufacturing center here in the state of Utah. We're also working with MUFG, which is the largest financial institution in Japan, as they look both for private equity investments and also for merger and acquisition opportunities for their clients. And so we anticipate a visit from the MUFG team here to Utah over the next few months. And in each of these areas, we are finding great opportunity for Utah companies to connect with Japanese counterparts, and we are then working hard to use the state's engagement and World Trade Center Utah's engagement to open the door, generate momentum, facilitate that handshake and hold it just long enough for it to take root, and then we back off and get out of the way. And we allow the private sector do what the private sector does best, and that's due diligence and figure out what makes sense from a business perspective. But as we do that, I'm confident that Utah will continue to forge partnerships with key players, global leaders all around the world. And that then is going to create stronger relationships, that's going to create new opportunities, and that's going to benefit Utah and also the countries in which we are doing business. And so just again to close, I'd just like to underscore how important it is to Utah to build strong partnerships. And as you continue your engagement here, we are grateful for all the time and energy that you put in to being here in Utah, to work with our companies, to help your companies here. But always keep in mind that you have strong partners here in Utah. You have people and organizations and entities and companies that are interested in not just having a transactional relationship, but a true partnership where we are working to advance each other's missions and objectives. And as we do that, I am confident that we will see the fruits of those partnerships increasing over time, and that will be a light and a benefit during a period of time in which I think we all expect to see some storm clouds and increasing tension at that geopolitical and national level. And so again, thank you for being with us today. Please reach out if there's ever anything at all that we can do to help. And again, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Saeed Moveni. I'm Dean of the College of Engineering and Technology. On behalf of my colleagues, I would like to welcome our honorable guests and wish you a very productive meeting. Bardomelo just told me I have 8 minutes, and I had prepared the presentation for about 20 minutes. So we're going to try using Mach 1 approach today, go quite fast through. When I was asked by Bartomelo to talk about the role of science, engineering, and technology in society, I thought what better way to start the conversation than with a quote by Helen Keller, which says, "Science may have found the cure for most evil, but it has found no remedy for the worst of them all, the apathy of human beings." As a society, we look to engineering, science, and technology to increase our economic well-beings, to advance healthcare, to protect the environment, to help ensure national security, and also to help educate our youth. The increasing economic role of engineering, in turn, has increased the demand for more engineers, for more scientists, for more technical workers. These technical workers, these technical workers are essential contributors to both the private and the public sectors. In the private sector, of course, they help propel the economy and use all the goods and services that we use. In the public sector, they support important local, state, and federal missions and objectives. For example, by supporting our infrastructure needs or ensuring food supply safety or space exploration. The technical jobs are among the fastest growing in the U.S. workforce, and typically, as we all know, unemployment in these areas are quite low. Increasingly, because of the socioeconomic trends and educational developments in other nations, the preeminence of U.S. in science, engineering, and technology and its economic strength is being challenged because more and more nations now recognize the important role engineering and technical workers play in the growth of their economies. The other point that I would like to bring to your attention, it takes many years to train engineers and scientists, so we must invest now to guarantee adequate supply of skilled workers for the future. The potential shortage of skilled workers could have devastating consequences for the future. It's also important to note that we must not only educate future scientists and engineers, but also provide continuing education to the existing workforce to keep pace with the advances that are occurring in engineering, science, and technology. Today's engineers could expect to change the type of work that they do several times during the course of their careers. The National Academy of Engineering, NAE, is a highly respected organization that advises the federal government on matters involving engineering and technology. A few years ago, NAE asked international group of leading thinkers to identify the grand challenges for engineering in the 21st century. And they came up with 14 goals for improving life on the planet. Among these grand challenges were advancing the personalized learning, enhancing virtual reality, restoring and improving urban infrastructure, providing access to clean water, securing cybersecurity, and advancing health informatics. For years, I have a colleague who is sitting here, Dr. Vassello, who's the Dean of the School of Education here. We have very interesting conversations quite often. For years, researchers in education have asked the following questions. What's the best way to teach kids to read? Phonics or whole word recognition? And to this day, they debate which way is better. However, if you were to ask a good first grade teacher what's the best way, he or she will tell you, well, it depends on the kid. Some kids learn faster using the whole word recognition, whereas others learn better when it comes to learning to read. There are also similar concerns with adult learners. We still use one-size-fits-all approach to learning. We don't take into account the age, cultural background, occupation, and level of motivation. Excuse me, my throat is a little dry. To most people, virtual reality means enhanced video games or using visual aids to thicken the plot of a science fiction movies. However, virtual reality has become a very powerful tool for training practitioners and also training patients. Virtual reality tries to combine vision, sound, touch, feelings of motion, and also recently smell to give the brain a realistic set of sensations. Already, virtual reality has been enlisted to treat people who are suffering from certain phobias. The studies have shown that people immersed in virtual reality at the edge of a cliff respond realistically. By realistically, I mean their heart rate rises and they refuse to take a step. If they're commanded to take a step over the virtual cliff, they refuse to do that. Exposing people who are afraid of heights actually has been shown, using virtual cliffs have shown to reduce the fear in a manner that also is much safer than walking along a real cliff. Similar successes have been achieved treating people who fear spiders and treating other phobias. Infrastructure was another grand challenge identified by National Academy of Engineering. Infrastructure is the combination of systems that support our community, regions, and countries. It includes everything from water, wastewater systems, to roads and network of railroads, power, and natural grids. Each year, the Society of Civil Engineers issues a report card and grades basically various categories of United States infrastructure. During the past decade, U.S. infrastructure has received a grade of D+. D+. Water is another issue. Overcoming the crisis in water and sanitation is one of the greatest human development challenges of the 21st century, according to a recent UN report. These are some facts that we all should be aware of. Lack of clean water is responsible for more death in the world than water. About 1 out of every 6 people living today do not have access to clean water. Cybersecurity. Securing the electronic web of information sharing we now know as cybersecurity is another grand challenge facing computer scientists and engineers. I try to go through this fast because I respect what Bardomelo asked me to do. So we see that in our everyday lives, from TV signals to cell phones to emails. It has become a very, very formidable challenge for engineers and computer scientists. Advancing healthcare informatics. No aspect of our life has escaped the impact of the information age, and health and medicines are no exceptions. Health informatics is the acquisition, management, and use of information in health. So this can greatly help us with the quality and efficiency of medical care. I use some personal example. Today, when you go to a hospital, they use a mixture of old technologies. By that I mean paper, and also new ones, different computer systems. Even within the given hospital, even they're using computer systems, the computer systems are not compatible because they're collecting different kinds of data. Now, add to this degree of complexity, try to share medical information regionally or nationally over global network because now different organizations use different systems, and also there are different data recording rules. Doctors are also suffering from the information overload. In addition to NAE grand challenges, National Science Foundation came up with 10 big ideas. These big ideas include future of work at the human-technology interface and harnessing the big data revolution. Let us take a quick look. This video
Looking
is
to
about
the future,
10 minutes.
NSF is
The
envisioning
video is about
bold
10 minutes,
questions,
but I try
big
to go through it
ideas
quickly.
that will drive important aspects of NSF's long-term research agenda and ensure coming generations will continue to reap the benefits of all that fundamental research in science and engineering can bring.
Imagine someone watching a game of chess, but they don't know the rules. They can't possibly predict with any confidence what a player's next move might be. Likewise, without knowing the basic rules of how genes function and interact with the environment, we cannot predict with any certainty what life's next move will be. The goal of this big idea is to address how we predict the phenotype, the structure, function, and behavior of an organism, based on what we know about its genes and environment. If we can identify some of the basic rules of life across scales of time, space, and complexity, we may be able to predict how cells, brains, bodies, and biomes will respond to changing environments. Imagine a world in which we can predict with confidence how crops will grow in extreme temperatures, or why cells will become malignant. In that world, we can make a better life for us all. We can provide a safe and stable food supply. We can use the body's own immune system to defeat cancer. You'll never get to checkmate if you don't know the rules.
Did you know that the Arctic is warming twice as fast as the rest of the planet? That affects not only the people who live there, but all of us, because what happens in the Arctic does not stay in the Arctic. Melting snow and ice means sea levels will rise, weather patterns are changing, and extreme weather is more frequent. Thawing permafrost and coastal erosion threaten towns and roads, and ecosystem shifts on land and sea affect food supplies. The warming Arctic also means more access for shipping and tourism, and to resources such as oil, gas, and minerals that are important to our economy and our national security. To get a handle on these rapid and widespread changes, NSF will lead by accelerating the pace of Arctic research and developing an innovative, interconnected observing system that engages Native people and the public. NSF and our federal, state, and international partners are committed to working together to acquire the data and predictive capabilities urgently needed to navigate the new Arctic.
Harnessing the data revolution is NSF's forward-looking big idea aimed at fundamental data science research, research data cyber infrastructure, and the development of a 21st century data-capable workforce. The confluence of three advances, massive amounts of data becoming online in digital form, massive amounts of computation, and new algorithms for detecting hidden correlations and patterns in this data have allowed researchers to ask fundamentally new questions and generate new answers, generating new knowledge and understanding and accelerating discovery and innovation. Beyond science and engineering, harnessing the data revolution will help our cities, workplaces, and other environments become more livable through the delivery of smart services informed by data. For example, reduced highway congestion and public transport congestion can be achieved through data-driven smart scheduling. Better living through ones and zeros.
The world is on the threshold of the next quantum revolution, and NSF will lead the way. Quantum phenomena rest on the behavior of infinitesimal particles and tiny amounts of energy that, if properly harnessed, will lead to new technological breakthroughs. The quantum leap is a cross-NSF approach to these phenomena that will answer deep underlying questions and address problems key to innovation. Many of the profound technological achievements of the 20th century rest on quantum ideas, and we are now prepared to further exploit them to create a new quantum revolution. This revolution will bring us more secure communication, sensors with unprecedented capabilities, and new ways of understanding the world around us that will change every facet of science, society, and even future job markets. Intellectual opportunity, broad national interest, and international competition make the quantum leap a compelling topic that ties together physical science, computer science, and engineering in a transformative enterprise.
The world of work is changing. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, the Internet of Things, robotics, new and emerging technologies are transforming the ways in which we produce goods, provide services, and collaborate with our colleagues. We are on the cusp of a major transformation in the workplace. The workplace of tomorrow is going to feature a symbiotic coexistence, a collaboration among humans and machines in cyberspace. Work at the human technology frontier will catalyze the interdisciplinary science and engineering research needed, first to understand the benefits as well as the risk of new technologies, and second, to enable the creation of technologies with which humans collaborate to enrich their lives in the future world of work. Today, we have a unique opportunity to actively shape that future, to use technology to improve the quality of work and ultimately to increase productivity and economic growth.
I encourage you, since we have limited time, I encourage you to actually go to NSF website and watch the remaining of this video. It's very interesting. I would like to end my presentation with a reminder from Aristotle, which says, the greatest injustices proceed from those who pursue excess, not by those who are driven by necessity. I thank you again for your time and for this opportunity to say a few words. Thank you for being here. Later, I will have a discussion with Baldomero why my presentation was cut and not others. And so, yes, thank you.
Good morning. I'm the last person between you and a break, but we're going to turn a little bit, change a little bit from the direct discussion of, so much we're talking about economic, but at the same time, we have sustainability that's so important to us. So I'm Vicki Bennett, and I'm the director of the Department of Sustainability for Salt Lake City. And Salt Lake City has a very robust sustainability program, and we like to really think that we are leading all of Utah in the sustainability programs. And we realize from an international point of view, the UN has its sustainable development goals, and one of the important ones is sustainable communities. And we like to really talk about how we are modeling being a sustainable community. Let's see where this goes. There we go. That one. Okay, I found the magic one. Maybe. Nope, now it went back. There we go. All right, so sustainability is most commonly discussed, talked about. We look at environmental issues, economic issues, equity issues, and more we're now talking about community health also. When we first started our sustainability department, so much of what we were doing was directly discussing climate change and how we were going to mitigate and reduce the amount of carbon emissions that we were responsible for in our community. More and more, we're really finding that the way we have to look at things, because local government is the closest to the people, and we need to look at all of our people and see which ones need to be lifted up the most. So really the equity approach. Rather than trying to come up with large programs that will just affect everyone, more and more we're going into individual neighborhoods, asking people, what do you need? How can we support you? Especially when we see that climate and air quality are such big issues in our region. And the people who are going to be most affected by that are the people who are going to probably have the lowest incomes and be the less advantaged. So we have a whole number of programs that I can talk about. I'm going to try and bring it into a few of the major things that we've been doing, everything from our energy programs, food programs, we have recycling programs. And it's something that's really exciting because there's always something new, there's always something more we can do, but we want to really try and improve the quality of life for the people who live in this region, because that in turn becomes an economic driver for all of us. So starting briefly with our climate and energy programs, we're all aware that in California there have been seasons of wildfire. We're still, we're getting smoke from the wildfires from California here still. And people sometimes will think, well, that's far away. But in Utah, here's a picture of a wildfire that we had a few years ago just up in the mountains above Salt Lake City. As you can see, it's right here. We are seeing effects of climate change. A few years ago, this was some of our ski areas in what should have been solid part of the middle of winter. We didn't have any snow. These are the sorts of things that we are going to see more and more as we have more and more changing climate. We have air pollution, and that has to do with a lot of the emissions from our homes and businesses. How do we approach that on those times when we have those nasty winter inversions, which it's an atmospheric condition, but we're putting stuff, all of the pollutants, into the atmosphere, and we have to start talking to people about how they can all individually make a difference. Again, being the government that's the closest to the people. One of the things we've done is we've really taken pride in the amount of solar energy that we have started putting on all of our city buildings. This is a picture of a collaborative project on our public safety building in Salt Lake that we built to be a net zero, so a building that produces as much energy as it uses, public safety building, and it's also earthquake resistant and a place that people really love to work because it is so energy efficient. And when we were able to put this solar farm in, along with another solar farm that was able to support it, we could show businesses, we could show industries in Utah that this is something you really can do economically, and it isn't necessarily more expensive. There's a reasonable payback and something that's really worthwhile for our long-term community health. We've worked closely with with Rocky Mountain Power, that is the utility that provides power in Salt Lake City, and created an energy implementation plan, telling them, as we say as a city, here are the things we want, and they're helping us to ensure that we can get more and more solar and renewables on the grid. We really are wanting to work on everything from renewable energy and energy efficiency programs to electric vehicles. Every one of these different things are important to really create a path for other cities so they can see what we're doing and doing it in a cost-effective manner that has an overall benefit to our taxpayers in the long run. We have what we call our Climate Positive 2040 plan, where we have all of our goals. I encourage you all, if you have a chance, to take a look on our Salt Lake City website at this, and it goes through the individual steps that we are taking, because we believe that by 2040, we have to reduce our carbon emissions essentially to nothing. To really try and move the needle, because as much as a city, we realize that we can do things for our 200,000 residents, which for a large capital city is really quite small. We needed to try and influence a wider, broader group of people. So we were able to pass a bill this last year in our legislature allowing cities to negotiate with their utilities to get 100% of their energy from renewable electricity. And by 2030, Salt Lake City will be doing this, and a large number of other cities are signing on to this program because they realize that in the long term, renewable energy is preferable to the older coal-fired power plants. Again, we have an issue here, though. The coal-fired power plants are located in regions where quite often that's the only economics that they have. And we have to really realize that we have benefited from what these people have been doing for us by providing electricity. So we're also working closely with the state to look at ways that there can be economic growth in their regions, that they can get some of the, like there's the Silicon Slopes high-tech businesses in this region. Can they have some of those businesses where the coal-fired power plants are and do retraining? And can we put some of our renewable energy in those regions so people can also find employment long-term? Electric vehicles, as I mentioned, something really important to us. We have a large number of electric vehicle charging stations in our region to help support electric vehicles, and we found it to be really economical to purchase them for a lot of our city operations. For those of you who might be driving around Salt Lake City, these, the little Chevy Bolt that you see there is what we use for our parking enforcement. So if you see them coming, please make sure you've paid your meter. We have a larger group of cities and nonprofits, health representatives from different health industries, universities that are part of what we call the Utah Climate Action Network, where we collaborate on different projects to really see what we can do to minimize the effects of climate change. Moving on to food programs, we really want to do everything we can within our city to increase the local food production, support local farmers, and create economic opportunities. It also has a fairly direct connection with climate, too, because climate, part of the issue we run into when we're all eating our fresh blueberries, which I just bought some at the store yesterday, and I know that those were not grown anywhere around here, the amount of energy that we're using to ship food from one hemisphere to another is immense. So what can we do to get more and more people growing food locally and giving them the direct economic opportunity? We have a large urban farm program where we help finance and give loans to urban farmers. We have part of that is a microgrant program where people can apply and they might get a few $100s from us, they might get $1,000. It doesn't sound like a lot of money, but for these small farmers, many of them just having something in, on the yard that their house is in, but they are able to actually grow enough of a product. Maybe we provide them something like a hoop house where they can have a longer growing season. That's actually enough for them to be able to benefit and sell this at one of the farmers markets in the region. Green City Growers is the urban garden program we have, and there is a waiting list for people who want to have access to the urban gardens. Perhaps they live in a condominium or an apartment and they can't garden where they live, and so they can actually rent a plot of land and grow their own food. And then one of the things that I think is most exciting is we have what we call an incubator kitchen. So many people want to take the food that they're growing and create a product. Maybe it's a salsa, a jam, a hummus, but they don't have access to a commercial grade kitchen. We have been able to support what's called the Square Kitchen, and that is a large commercial kitchen where people can actually rent space by the hour, come in, create their product, and then sell it locally. Next couple of things we're going to be doing in the food area is what we're calling our resident food equity advisors. We're going to bring in a group of citizens and ask them exactly what sort of programs they need from us. Again, rather than government trying to say top down, this is what we're doing, we're essentially trying to surrender the power to the residents and ask them, what can we do for you? And what can you actually, what sorts of programs can we create which will be the most effective for you to have, be part of this local food industry. And we're also doing another study on what sort of things we could possibly offer through a food hub study. The last topic I'd like to discuss is our recycling and waste diversion program. And this is something that, the recycling markets have been really bad lately, and it's because we aren't able to ship a lot of our material overseas. But truthfully, that's probably was about the worst thing we could be doing. Again, greenhouse gas emissions from shipping a bunch of material across, quite often China, Vietnam. So we still are in Salt Lake accepting all of the same material that we used to, and we're really encouraging our residents saying we are still going to recycle. But what's happening is we're beginning to create more and more local recycling options. And there will be for paper, rather than sending it overseas, we're going to have a place that recovers paper locally in the next couple of years. We are able to do all of our metal recycling locally, and plastics are the one thing that we still have some that we may have to ship overseas, but that is something that can be economically recovered. We really spend a lot of time, as you can see from these pictures, we have signs on our trucks trying to encourage people to recycle. Think about what they can do to minimize what they're purchasing, minimize the packaging that they use. So much of what we do is consumer education and citizen education. We have to be able to talk to them in such a way where they understand why their small changes can really make a difference when we come to the overall global environmental health, be it the air quality in this region or climate change on a larger basis. The one thing we always like to think about is, why are we doing all of this? Sustainability is something that we want to make where we live a better place to live. We want to, Utah has a lot of growth. We've heard about that from our other speakers, and we need to be able to manage that growth in such a way where people want to move here can, people who live here want to stay here, our children can stay here, they can find the jobs that they need. So the decisions we're making now on how we handle all of these different issues are so important to the future. And I really hope that Salt Lake City can continue to be the leader in our region and in our state to show opportunities where we can make cost-effective decisions and minimize the effect to the environment in the future. If you want any more information, all of our programs are detailed on our website. That's at slcgreen.com, and I'm always glad to answer any questions when we have a chance to speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vicki, for your presentation on sustainability. We also want to thank Dr. Said Moavini for his presentation on innovation and technology, as well as the President and CEO of the World Trade Center Utah, Mr. Miles Hansen, for your presentation on foreign investment and free trade. And again, also thanks to Mr. Franz Kolb for your presentation on diplomacy in the state of the Utah, as well as Mr. Valhell. Thanks so much for your few remarks. As you probably can sense already, we are a little behind schedule, but we're going to move on with our program for this conference. We have been able to hear from the state of Utah. You have heard from our president of this university, from the lieutenant governor, and from some key players in the state, like the Consular Corps, the U.S. Commercial Services, as well as the foreign missions of the Department of State. Now is an opportunity for all of you to hear from our country representatives. And as you look at your program, the presentations will be as follow. And if you just want to just follow along with me so you will see how this is going to be the next breakout sessions. The Group A, which is going to be led by Mr. Franz Kolb. Franz, if you're still you're back there. Okay, so Franz Kolb will be leading the discussions with the groups of Australia, Canada, Czech Republic, and Finland. Group B, which will meet upstairs in 206 A&B, will be followed with Mr. David Utrilla, and the countries of Hungary, India, Japan, Mexico, and Netherlands will be presenting. And I will be moderating or leading the next group, which is placed on 213 A and B. And the group will be New Zealand, Peru, Spain, and United Kingdom. We have a team of co-workers and actually conference organizers that have actually helped me to organize this conference. And my colleague Amy Barnett on the back will be leading everyone to go upstairs to the different sections, so please find your room. Again, thank you very much for coming for this first plenary session. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for joining us, dignitaries, His Excellencies. Thank you very much for being with us. Now is their turn to be able to explain to us what they're doing. So, thank you.